How many weeks or days before the contest do you suggest using halotestin, and at what dose?
The standard, protocol that I always used and I use with my clients is 20 milligrams per day for the last 14 days. Remember, halotestin has no anabolic quality, so it's not going to build any muscle. All it does is it's an androgen. It's a non-aromatizing androgen, meaning it doesn't convert to estrogen, so there's no fluid retention with it. And it helps, and high androgen compounds help you store glycogen in the muscle. So it gives a lean muscle a very dense, hard, full look. And so we use it, like I said, 20 milligrams. The truth of the matter is, you know what? We used to use it back in the 90s a lot because there was no trenbolone acetate. Now with trenbolone is so high in androgens, you really don't even need the halotestin. We use it by convention if people can find it, just because, you know what, we always did it that way. But the truth is, if you took a shot of trenbolone every day the last 2 weeks, it would probably accomplish the exact same thing.
Last one, and a controversial one at that, is from Carlos Fit NYC. Is it normal for a coach to ask for full nudes on female clients to evaluate them better? Someone who just won their pro card at North Americans recently is accused of this.
Yeah, I think I don't know who the coaches were. I don't even know who the athletes were involved. But there's a lot of perverts out there who are just they use their position of authority to get girls to give them nude pictures or even pose nude for them. There's no reason to have a person nude. Now, that's not to say that I haven't walked into a room, where I was helping an athlete and the athlete, had no top on because she just got spray tanned or something like that. That's a different story. But I'm talking about like a coach telling their athletes, "I need nude pictures to get a full assessment of you." That's bullshit, because they're not naked on stage. So a posing suit should be adequate for you to determine if the person's in shape or not, And so there's a lot of shady. If people start asking for that kind of stuff and demanding it, I would run for the hills. Especially if my daughter ever told me that, I would want to beat the piss out of the guy who told her that, because that's just not necessary and not called for. And there are a lot of people that do it out there. Believe me, I know that for a fact. And you know what? It disgusts me, because what it does is it casts a really bad aspersion on coaches, and it makes it look well maybe everyone's out for something. I treat every woman as if they're that I work with as if they're my daughter, my wife, or a family member, because that's how I would want my daughter treated if she was if she goes into gymnastics and she's got a gymnastics coach, or she goes to whatever sport she's doing, or at school for her teacher. And treat people like you want to be treated, and that's what my father always told me, and my mother always told me, and that goes all the way. You do not. I mean, if you look at the USA Gymnastics, what a disaster that turned out to be with that Dr. Nasser there, who was fingering the girls for 25 years, and they were getting away with it. It was like a fraternity of like pedophilia going on there, and I'm not talking about just low level gymnasts. We're talking about the top gymnasts in the world were being sexually molested by this guy, and he, under the guise of him having to give them some kind of special massage therapy where he had to internally put his fingers inside of him, and sick, and it went on, and people covered it up. So no, if you see a coach doing that, number one, I would run for the hills, but I would tell everyone else to stay away from that coach too. Bad for the business.